guys? Welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, I'm going to read an article titled, Being Around This Makes Your Partner More Likely to Cheat, New Study Says. And a big shout out to Jeffrey for sending me this article. And guys, what we have here is a article. This is a brand new article about a recent study that's come out that's been trying to determine things that make people cheat in relationships. And to no surprise, they found this major thing is a giant cause for a lot of infidelity going on in relationships. And what this particular cause is will come to absolutely no surprise to any of you, because particularly for you guys that have lived long enough, been around the block, and wait for it, have a little common sense. That thing, which causes many to cheat, are nothing more than the people that your spouse or partner, or whatever you want to call them, boyfriend, girlfriend, hangs out with, the friends. And this is something that I talk about all the time, probably since day one when I started this channel, about always watching out who your girl hangs out with. Because if her friends are a bunch of carousel riders, the odds are so is she. And if she's not already, she will be one day. Or a bunch of her friends are all married, including her, and all of a sudden they start reading those online articles and magazines and hear about open relationships, open marriages, and they're starting to think they're trying to convince their guy to do it. Well, it's a good possibility they're going to do the same thing. Now, does that mean that every single time that's going to happen? Of course not. But so often, people, you can tell just by looking at their friends, how they are, what they behave, is going to impact them for many things. So I'm going to go over this one here. It's a good one, and it's always good to hear when you have a certain theory about something, and finally somebody does some research about it, and it backs that. It's a good feeling. So like I say all the time, guys, watch who your girl hangs out with. And if her friends are a bunch of trash, break up with her. End of story. You don't need that shit in your life because it will come back to haunt you. So, starts off, it says here, depending on the parameters and expectations you and your partner have set, there can be different beliefs about cheating in a relationship. For many, however, a monogamous situation wherein each partner is completely faithful to one another is the ideal situation. They want to trust that a significant other won't stray even if they find themselves attracted to someone else. But despite such commitment, infidelity can still often occur. While there is not always a concrete answer as to why someone wanders, a new study suggests that if your partner is exposed to one thing in particular, it can make that more likely to cheat. Read on to find out what the new data suggests and how it could affect your relationship. So right there, according to them, that one thing says here, we're all impacted by social norms. Human beings are inherently social. Even if you're more introverted than extroverted, you are still affected by those around you, and their actions can also impact how you think and feel. Well, that's absolutely true, but that doesn't give someone a free pass to behave like a bunch of jackasses that they hang out with. So I don't want this to set the stage for someone to say, well, research has said that people will be impacted by their friends, therefore I can't be held accountable because you get my point. I don't want that to happen as a result of this type of research. It says here, culture is shaped by social norms, even in microcosms such as friend groups. Brian Billups Hughes, a licensed marriage and family therapist and sex therapist, explains. These are the practices or behaviors that you see exhibited by others, which then appear acceptable or normal to you. According to Boston University School of Public Health, this concept is the main focus of social norms theory, which evaluates peer influence and the role it plays in individual decision-making around behaviors. It says here, as a kid, you might have experienced this if your friends were doing something and you felt inclined to follow along, even if you knew your parents wouldn't approve. When you inevitably got caught, they would ask the rhetorical question, if everyone else jumped off a cliff, would you? It may seem trivial now, but this analogy can be used to illustrate how we're affected by our peers in adulthood, even when it comes to cheating. So, I'm going to say this, and yes, many times I've heard that thing growing up because I got into a lot of mischief when I was a kid. But keep in mind that I was, in fact, a kid. All right? So, if there's ever a time there could be somewhat of a pass for someone going along with the crowd, it could be with children. Little kids, even teenagers, because their minds are still developing. They got all the emotions. There's that peer pressure of childhood trying to fit in. I'm not saying excuses a lot of actions, but it's a tad bit more understandable. I mean, I did things when I was younger I regret, but I was a little kid, right? And believe me, I was in detention all the time. Junior high and high school, I was definitely a rascal, to put it mildly. But it's different when you're a grown-ass adult. When the brain is developed, you reached adulthood, okay? That's when it's different. And so if you're going along with your friends and they're doing these asinine things, which could, let's just say maybe they're illegal actions, I don't want to hear, well, all my friends were doing it. No. I don't want to hear. There's no excuse. And in a situation like ruining a great relationship and destroying someone because your friends were cheating. And this can go both ways with both men and women. It says here, your friends may have more influence on your relationship than you'd like. Well, duh, it's common sense. By the way, I'm going to also say this before I continue. Most people in this world, whether they want to admit it or not, and most don't want to admit it, are followers. They're sheep. That's why we have the world that we have today. Few people are leaders. And I'm trying to help grow and develop more leaders by you guys that watch me. But since most people are followers, they're going to do whatever the herd does. They don't want to think for themselves. They don't want to admit that, but it's the fucking truth. Okay, it says those who are in a committed monogamous relationships often use strategies to mitigate their attraction to other partners or their temptations. Gert Birnbaum, PhD professor of psychology at Reichman University in Israel, wrote in an article for SciPost. These include ignoring those they find attractive or perceiving them as less desirable than they are. However, a new study found that when people see others around them cheating, they aren't as inclined to use relationship protective strategies. Published in Archives of Sexual Behavior on August 17th, the study actually asked if infidelity is contagious. And the short answer is, yes, it is. According to study findings, seeing other people cheat reduces study participants' commitment to their current relationship as well as their desire to resist temptation. So, translation, well, everybody else is doing it, so I can do it. No problem there. And I don't want to be alone. I don't want to be the odd man out. So, okay, I'll do what everybody else is doing because, hey, everybody else is doing it, so it must be right. These findings suggest that environmentalists that foster a greater prevalence of infidelity lessen the motivation to protect the bond with the current partner, possibly setting the stage for unleashing the desire for alternative partners. Birnbaum, who is also the lead study author, explained in the SciPost article, such environments, I said environmentalists earlier, I meant environments, such environments may make people more vulnerable to, if not outright infect them with their infidelity. How many of these stories, guys, have I done, both on this channel and the other channel, where the gal gets caught cheating, the wife, girlfriend, fiance, whatever, and you find out that all her friends are doing the same thing to their boyfriends, their husbands, whatever, or she'll say that they egged her on or something like that. And of course, not my fault, but it was my friends. And if these guys would have simply paid attention to the red flags or knew to look out for this red flag, they wouldn't be in that situation. Because sometimes these guys reflect in these personal stories I get or crazy stories I cover on the other channel. They could already tell the friends were trouble. They didn't like the friends. That's a common thing. So I say all the time, for you relationship guys who are watching this and are here to entertainment but also to learn something, if you start dating a gal and you're into her, you're having a good time, and you meet her friends and you just something isn't right, or you can see that they have boyfriends but they're very flirtatious, or they show themselves off online, I'd reconsider continue to date that gal or get in a relationship, because that could impact you, and you don't need that shit in your life. And we're in an era now where it's almost become considered to be empowerment to cheat on your guy, amongst many other things. You don't need that. It goes on. The study used 3 tests to evaluate cheating likelihood. Within the overall study, investigators conducted 3 separate studies or tests where participants were exposed to cheating behavior exhibited by others. As part of the first test, study participants were shown research findings that reported either high or low rates of infidelity. After they were asked to write the first sexual fantasy they could think of, they were then evaluated and rated for levels of desire towards both current and different partners. For the second test, researchers used more objective measures to evaluate how exposure applies to different forms of cheating. To do so, participants either read stories about romantic cheating or academic cheating, like on a test. After reading the statements, they were asked to rate the attractiveness of a stranger and decide whether they could be a potential partner. Well, I want to say this, a part of this whole, these tests. It is one thing, you can't totally gauge, let me put it this way. You could have a guy who's married, and he's a good guy. He's loyal, doesn't cheat anything, and we're hoping his wife doesn't do it either. Yes, he can find out and about at the gym or in passing or wherever it is at work, he can see a gal who's good looking, be attracted to her, and in his mind say, yeah, I'm attracted to her. And in an alternate reality where I wasn't married, yeah, I would nail her in every room in my house. But that doesn't mean he's going to cheat on her. Okay, so I'm kind of taking issue with this part of this test here. Okay, yeah, anybody can look at somebody else and be like, oh, she's hot, or a gal can think he's hot. Doesn't mean they're going to go do that. So that's an issue I have, this one element to this test. As part of the final test, investigators wanted to see if exposure to cheating would also increase their attempts to do via flirting. Participants read survey results about high rates of cheating romantically or academically, and were then interviewed by an attractive person online. Afterwards, participants sent a message to the interviewer, which was evaluated by independent judges who rated participants' efforts to interact with them. Again, participants also rated how sexually desirable they found the interviewer and their commitment to their current partner. Okay, fine, but again, still, just because they're attracted doesn't mean they're going to do it. But there are more to this study that they're mentioning here at this time, and it does boil down to the simple fact that if a lot of people, their friends are doing something, they're going to do it too, even if they're grown-ass adults. It says there's some experts say that cheating is prompted by other issues. Birnbaum notes that while immersion in environments where cheating is prevalent seems to indicate justification for abandoning long-term priorities or relationship maintenance, it doesn't automatically turn people into cheaters. Now, we're going to have someone now who's going to have a counter-argument to this, saying it's not always the friends that may do this. And take a wild guess who this so-called expert is. None other than a woman. Says Terry DiMatteo, licensed professional counselor of Open Door Therapy and blogger behind Love Bonds, suggests that cheating is a result of additional issues within a relationship. And that's not untrue at all. I agree with that. But it definitely wants to push aside the friends are doing it, so they'll do it thing. Shocker. She says, infidelity is almost always a result of a weakened intimacy bond between a committed pair or married couple, she explains. Romantic bonds are strongest when partners consistently turn toward one another for their emotional and sexual intimacy needs. If the bond between the pair weakens and each is no longer turning toward each other for intimate connection, it leaves the parties susceptible to forming a connection with someone outside the primary relationship or marriage. And I'm not going to disagree with that. That's definitely a part of it. But again, if someone is weak, a follower, and all their friends are doing it, and they don't want to be left out because there are people like this in the world, even if they have a good thing going, they can still do it. DiMatteo challenges the study findings by adding that cheating also occurs in friend groups when you're surrounded by devoted, loyal, and faithful peers, because it's actually driven by a couple's attachment bond. On the flip side, Birnbaum does state that if your partner is already thinking about straying, certain environments can act as the extra push needed to resolve the conflict between following moral values and succumbing to short-term temptations in a way that promotes infidelity. But anyhow, guys, that's a quick article there, and this will probably be an ongoing debate with researchers and all that. But breaking it down to this, it seems to me just common sense. And since so many adults out there really don't have not much more maturity than they did when they were freaking teenagers, and in some cases small children, that doesn't surprise me at all. And so the bottom line of this whole thing is that watch who your girl hangs out with. Or for the 4% of women that watch me, watch who your husband hangs out with, or your guy. Because if they're all a bunch of scumbags and cheaters and all that, well, the odds are it's not impossible he won't do it, but he might. Or for the gals. And again, it'd be one thing if I just started this channel today and I just had that opinion, but I've been doing this for 2.5 years. I've probably done about 1,300 videos between both channels since then. I'm also 44 and been around the block many, many times, as I've known a whole lot of people. And when you start seeing these patterns over and over and over again, patterns in the stories and these situations, pretty much hits the nail on the head. So bottom line, like according to the research is showing, watch who your girl hangs out with. If they're a bunch of cheaters, they're deceitful, they're shady, either she stops hanging out with them or you may be time to back away and find somebody else. So anyway, guys, quick one, but that'd be a good one to cover here. All right, guys, that's it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about this. Let me know what you think, guys. Have you agree with this? Have you had experience with this with the gals that you've been dated or even been married to? What their friends were like? How that kind of impact? I'd really like to hear about it. And if it wasn't your own situation, maybe somebody you knew, a brother, a buddy, whatever. Let's hear about it in the comment section, because this video today is less on the entertainment side, but more on helping guys out, keeping up with what's going on, all that. So when you comment away about your situations and your experience, this will help other dudes out there, because guys around the world are going to read this, and it could help somebody out. Somewhere around the world, your comment may help them out. And also, guys, if you got a good story you'd like to share, or a good article, personal story, by all means, email it to me, strongsuccessfulmale@gmail.com. Just give me some time to get to it. I will when I get a chance. I get bombarded by more and more emails every day, which is awesome. I appreciate you guys taking the time to write me. But I can't get every single one of them done, so I got to choose the best ones. Or I tuck things away, and I come back to them down the road when they're just at the right time. So, and be sure to like the video, share it with your friends, and subscribe. And I'll catch you next time.